Hey guys, welcome to this new video. So today I have Min with me. Min is a lawyer and we're going to talk about a very serious subject about law in Vietnam. So just to give you some perspective, when you check in some expat groups, sometimes you see some foreigners that are like so scared because they made a mistake, they were not very well recommended in terms of advice, and they panic, and that's why I think it's a very important subject to talk about, and that's why I invited Min to digest this for you. So Min, can you start by introducing yourself to our audience?
Yes. Hello everyone. My name is Minh. I'm a lawyer. I'm the founder of Be Lawyer Vietnam. I graduated from Ho Chi Minh City Law University for 10 years ago. Yes, before starting my our law firm, I worked for two law firms. One is a local law firm named Phước and Partners.
Okay.
I worked there for 5 years. Then I worked for an international law firm. It's KPMG Legal. Yes, and after 2 years at that company, I start with my own law firm.
Okay, so it's good you have at the same time the local perspective and also the foreign perspective, because you used to deal with expatriates and foreign investor. What are usually the common people that come to consult you, like your, let's say, your common customer? Who are they?
Yes. We can divide them into three groups.
Mhm.
The first group is the international investors. Yes, they want to invest, do business, or expand companies in Vietnam. They could be the individuals or group of investors, multinational companies, or the credit institution or the funds, and they often consult us about the market entries, the condition for investment, the form of the companies in Vietnam, and how to contribute the capitals into the companies, or merge acquisition with other companies, or make the joint ventures. Yes, the second group is the companies operating in Vietnam. They could be the foreign invested companies, or the local companies. Yes, they often ask us about the legal matter regarding to the operation of the company. For example, labor and employment. For example, the labor contract, the work permit, or the temporary residential cards for the foreigners, or even dispute with the employees. Yes, all the matter they ask us is the contract or agreement, and the dispute settlement, debt recoveries, IP registration. Yes, in general, this is the activities of the companies.
Okay, and what about the last group? I guess this is the one you want to talk about, the foreigner, all the civil matters.
Yeah, the last group are the individuals. Yeah, they often ask us about the civil matters like marriage, divorce, will, inheritance, or child. Yes, get the child in Vietnam.
So what about this part? Is like what about the documents they have to provide you? Is it every time the same? Do you have to provide, I don't know, a passport? Do you have to notarize those documents if maybe that's foreign documents? How it works in Vietnam?
Yes, the document to be provided to us is based on the nature of the case and the demands of the clients. So for one or two times of contacting the clients, we can understand the legal issue on their case and determine which documents they need to provide us. After that, we will studying the documents and raise the question to the clients and ask them to provide more documents for our support. So, for example, if an individual investor come to us for an investment project in Vietnam, so we often ask them to provide the personal document like the passport, the financial document like the bank account statement, the education document like the university degrees, and for the document issue overseas, so they need to legalize to be used in Vietnam.
Yeah, so usually you go to a notarial entity that's gonna translate and kind of stamp it, right? This is usually how it works in Vietnam.
Yep.
What about the third point, your third group? I'm quite interested into that because this is some concern. You have a lot of couple in Vietnam. Maybe the person is foreigner and he gonna marry a Vietnamese person.
Yep.
And usually at that time they wanna buy a land, they wanna invest in properties, sometimes they have child as well.
Yep.
How it works about those civil matter problems? Do you usually deal with that? Can you maybe illustrate to our audience some like easy to understand examples that some of your customers commonly ask you to deal with?
Okay, so I would like to share two cases about the marriage, the civil matters that I support for the foreign clients. The first case is we supported for the marriage registration of a Vietnamese wife and a foreign husband. Yeah, so they come to us and we advise for them the laws of Vietnam regarding to the marriage registration. It's not easy to get married in Vietnam regarding to the marriage condition, the competence of the authorities, the procedures, or the documents that both sides need to provide to the authorities. So we advise them what the law requires first. Then we collect the documents and information from them and check to make sure that we can mitigate the risk of being challenged by the authorities. Then we prepare the application dossier for them to review and decide. Then we go to the authority with them to submit the dossier until get a marriage certificate.
Okay.
And the second case is we support for a divorce between Vietnamese wife and foreign husband, and our clients is the foreign husband. Yes. Yes, so let me say a little about this case. This was complicated because first it relates to involving the common child of 3 years old. Yes, and our client want to get the child for custody. Yes, and second is the common asset. The common asset is the asset that they create within the marriage.
Okay.
Yes, so all the real assets like the landlords, the house is under the wife name.
Of course.
Yeah. So we think that we should make the mediation. Yes, so after many mediation meetings between the wife and the husband, our lawyer explain and advise them about the law of Vietnam, what would be happened in the court if they bring the case to the court, and will take time, take cost, and after that the result is the wife agree to give the child for our client custody and take around 35% of the values of the common assets.
Okay.
Yes, and then we support them to make a dossier for mutual agreements on divorce and submit to the court.
Okay.
With this approach, so we can have our client to say 3/4 of time on the case in comparison with submit a case to the court for its settling.
I see. It's good to know that as a foreigner, if you get married and if you want to really kind of commit for a long period of time in Vietnam,
Yep.
you are still a little bit backed by the Vietnamese law. I mean, if you are well advised, you can still make, I guess, premarital contracts at the beginning before
Yep.
getting married,
Yep.
and as well as making the proper contract within the when you get married, to be able to kind of be covered and have all the assets that are well split. There is another case that I'm having very often is the Viet Kieu. So sometime, so either they are born overseas, or either they born in Vietnam and they relocate overseas, and after a few years they want to come back. What about the property? Do you also help them if, for instance, they don't get a citizenship, to be able to get a citizenship? If they want to invest into a land, do you also deal with those matters?
I would like to have general advice about this matter like this. Viet Kieu under the law of Vietnam can be understood as two cases. The first case is the Vietnamese with Vietnamese nationalities residing overseas, and the second case is the person with Vietnamese origins and residing overseas. And for these two cases, the law of Vietnam had a different regulation on the rights the rights of house ownership and land use rights. For example, for the Vietnamese residing overseas, they have the right to buy house and acquire lands in Vietnam. But for the person with Vietnamese origin without Vietnamese nationalities, they have a very limited right. For example, they just buy the apartment in apartment buildings.
Same as the foreigner, right?
Yes, same the foreigners. Or they just buy the house in housing construction projects with a condition that they can enter to Vietnam.
Min, I have another question about this. It's about the adopted kids by foreigner. So let's say someone who is born in Vietnam and who has been abandoned in Vietnam. There is a lot of cases like this. I have a lot of friends in this situation, and they have been adopted and raised overseas. If those kids wanna, now they are, I don't know, 25, 30 years old, they wanna come back to Vietnam to find a job, to find opportunities. Is there a way for them to get back their nationality, their citizenship? Do you help them as well about that?
Yes, we can have them to apply for restoring their Vietnamese nationalities. Yes, because they have the Vietnamese origins, so it's okay to do that.
Okay, very good points. Can we now maybe can you share maybe some advice, some notes some foreigners should take in consideration when they wanna go and meet a lawyer? Do you have kind of advice, general advice, to help them to foresee what they should do now if they need to find someone to help them?
I just want to note like this, in Vietnam, per the laws of Vietnam, that the lawyer cannot make guarantees or commit on a favorable result for the works that they support to the clients. So the law on lawyers and the bar associations code of conduct strictly banned about this matter. But the lawyer can show that he will try his best to support for the dossiers of the clients, or he will try his best to work with the third parties or the authority for the clients.
Okay. And maybe now can you give, let's say, 3 advice for the foreigner who are looking for a lawyer, or your personal experience about that?
For my experience, I think that the client should go to the law firm with some famous name. Yes, and before to find a lawyer, and before assign to the lawyer, they should talk with them. To make sure that the lawyer understand their case and their demand. And when work with the lawyer, should have the agreements or document recording the work to support the document, give to the lawyers, and for anything about the case, they should talk directly with the lawyers. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Min. I really advise you to meet different people. It's not because honestly we are doing this video that is only to kind of point the focus on our services, but it's more, yeah, if you come to Vietnam, you meet different parties, you can meet even very legit and very kind of well-known international law firm. You can get general advice, and after I really invite you to also meet local lawyers that are maybe less under the radar, but they will still provide a very good service, and of course for a cheaper rate than what you can get in international law firm. So I really invite you to take time to meet different people, and so you can have also a different perspective from the lawyer and take a better decision. So yeah, I'm really happy to have you here, Min. I'm really sure it's gonna bring good value for our audience.
Yeah.
Thanks again, and maybe I see you in the next video.
Okay. Thank
you.
you.
Bye bye.
Yeah.